Okay, so today's lesson is going to be Athletic Training 101. We're doing the ankle tape job, which is also called the basket weave. It is a preventative measure as well as used after an injury has already occurred to prevent further injury to an ankle. So now we're going to go step by step through each of the ankle tape job steps. The first thing you need to do is have your athlete dorsiflex their foot, which means they need to pull their toes towards their knee. This is really important to make sure that the tape job is tight as well as efficient. Once they have to keep this as well throughout the entire tape job, or else it loses its strength. So you start with your pre-wrap. You always start at the top, right below where the gastroc ends, which is your calf muscle here, into the Achilles. You start at the top and you make your way down with your pre-wrap, just like a tape job. Everyone's pre-wrap job is different. It just depends on a certain person's preference. Some people like to do a heel lock in their pre-wrap and others don't. It just depends on what you like. I like to do a heel lock in my pre-wrap. Once you make sure that the entire ankle has been covered, you start with what we call your anchor strips. Depending on the length of the Achilles, you can do 2 to 3 anchor strips. Start at the top. Always get a little skin when you start with your anchor strip to make sure that it's stable and stays in place. I'm going to do 3 anchor strips on her since her Achilles is a little longer. Once you're done with your 3 anchor strips, you're going to do what we call stirrups. You always start on the inside, which is the medial side of the ankle. Start from the inside and you go all the way to the outside. Between each stirrup, we always alternate into another anchor strip. I like to start personally where I left off with my other anchors. Now that I've done one more anchor, I'm going to do another stirrup. Alternating with another anchor. One more stirrup just to make sure. This also depends on the size of the ankle as to how many stirrups you do. One more anchor strip. Now once I've started down here, finished my third stirrup, I like to go back and finish up closing at the top so that when I'm done down here, all I have to do is close from the middle of the ankle down. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up here. And again, everyone does this differently. You have to work on your angles. The further you go down, the anchors have to sort of point down as you go. And now I'm going to go into what I call a figure 8. It's just like an 8 around the ankle. I like to start on top. And once I start my figure 8, I go around the top of the foot to the bottom, making an 8. Once I get to the top again, I'm going to start what we call a heel lock, which keeps your heel basically locked in place, keeps the mortise of the ankle in position so that it doesn't move. So I go around underneath the lateral malleolus, underneath the heel, back around, and this is a continuous heel lock, by the way, to the underside of the medial malleolus, back around, again, underneath the lateral malleolus, underneath the heel, medial malleolus, around, and one more figure 8 to close it out, and around this to close. Now some people don't do continuous figure 8s into their heel locks. It's again preference. This is all about your style and how you do it. But once again, they all do the same job. Now I'm going to do what we call closing, which is to make sure that there are no holes or weak spots in our tape job. And one on top to make sure that these strips don't move. And to make sure it looks pretty. And that is your basket weave tape job. Okay, so now that we've gone over the full ankle tape job, we're going to go over the figure 8s and the heel locks. We're going to break those down into little simpler steps. They're kind of hard to grasp unless you get your hands on and start doing it yourself. So with your figure 8, I always start in the front of the ankle, right where the tendon runs right here. So I start here and it's just like I'm going all the way around the Achilles here, but I come all the way down across to the base of the fifth, just about. So we come here and all the way back around to meet where I ended, or where I began my first figure eight. So it's making a figure eight around the foot. Now to start a heel lock, if you want to start, but this is how I was taught, when you start, you always start on the medial side of the ankle. So you can start here, down at the base of the heel. You go 1, 2 to the front of the ankle, the dorsal part, down around below or on top of the lateral malleolus. You come around the base, or the back of the Achilles and the heel, back to where you started. You cup underneath the heel, and this one doesn't have a good angle, so I'm going to cut it back to the front where I began my figure eight. So that's one heel lock. Heel locks should be on the medial and lateral side because you do not want medial or lateral movement. So I'll begin the lateral heel lock on the same spot, except it's on the lateral outside of the heel. Get a better angle. You come across the dorsal part of the foot, behind the heel, the back of the Achilles where it inserts, cut the heel, come back around top, and cut it off. So once again, we'll do this a little bit slower. You start here on the medial part of the foot. You come across to point 2, the dorsal part of the ankle. Going around the lateral malleolus, you come around the bottom of the Achilles and the heel, cup the heel, come back around, and I'm going to continuously go back around the dorsal part, coming to the lateral side of the ankle underneath the lateral malleolus, cupping the heel again, pulling it this direction, and ending